this hedgerow just here, there's an old Roman road, 2,000 years old. There's something that doesn't quite add up about it. Come and take a look. We were taught from a very young age that the Romans built our roads, and they did so in such a well-engineered way that we still use them all today. But I don't think that's completely true. Far from it, in fact. Take this one. This was a major route to London. In fact, now it's just a remnant of that. Just a hedgerow along the side of this small wooded area. Come and have a look at this. So as I walk along the top of this Roman road here, now the view from the side, looking back at me, you can really get an idea of the raised profile of this Roman road. Now, it was clearly well engineered because it's still here in the woods today. And that being the case, well, why ever did we stop using them? Why did this fall out of use? Now, you might be thinking, Paul, there's loads of these still in use today. Maybe not major roads, but they're still there. And yeah, some are. But once you actually start looking, a lot of them aren't. Not main roads, not even minor roads, just fragments, fields, or gone altogether. That leaves us with two questions, really important questions. Number one, how many Roman roads are actually still in use today? And number two, look at this. And question two, from down here in the ditch, look at that there, that Roman road we can still see today. Because it was so well engineered, that being the case, and the fact they were always dead straight connecting major towns, well then why exactly did they fall out of use? So my journey today is going to see me walk along this here. This is the major Roman road that went towards London from the southwest, affectionately known today as the Portway. I'm probably going to end up in Silchester, the Roman town. Nevertheless, walking along this route, at least 2,000 years old, gives me this huge sense of awe of the people that used it and travelled along it. Wonderful image you can conjure up, but actually it might not be as romantic as I've just made out. Let me explain. We can date many of these roads to soon after the invasion of Britain in 43 AD, from coinage to known army movements to the foundation of towns and the movement of resources. Even today, they're still giving up their secrets. But first of all, it's really important that we consider these aren't just roads. You see, for a start, they had different classifications. We have the via, the actus and the iter, depending on if you were wheeled traffic or the beast of burden or just on foot. Now, crucially, these main vias, including this one right here, well, this wasn't a road in the sense that you and I would know and be able to use. This was very much the part of the Circus Publicus, a state-controlled road network. And if you were using this, well, you would very much be on official business. These roads moved armies, officials, information, orders, tax records, imperial messages, all travelling quickly across Britain, resources flowing from countryside to towns, forts to ports. This was very much a system that held Roman Britain together. Without this Roman road network, Rome in Britain doesn't really exist, and that is a significant problem. Now, our route ahead is looking like it's blocked, so I'm going to have to get back out of here onto what is actually the main footpath. So roads like this one, the main route to London from the southwest that we've just discovered in this hedgerow here, well, they held together an entire Roman province for nearly 400 years. So why exactly does it feel like they just went out of use? So here in Britain, we're said to have had 10,000 miles of Roman roads, and I want to test this. Well, not all of Britain, because that would take forever, but I want to look at a decent proportion here in southern England and maybe some main roads too. So how much is still in use as an A road, how much survives as a B road, and how much is pretty much gone. So that's what I've done. I've started mapping and plotting Roman roads, comparing them to modern road network and seeing exactly what's left. So as I sit here and work this out, what do you think? Do you reckon there are still a lot of Roman roads in use today, or do you think it's far lower than we've been led to believe? So I'm a mile or two further on than what I was back there, and I really want to get back on the road. I can see the main raised profile of the road there, the agger there in the hedge, but this is a pretty heavy duty fence and I just want to sort of stand and climb on it. I am becoming of a delicate age. Turns out someone has already broken the fence. Let's get back on the Roman road. So why exactly am I asking these questions today? A friend of mine recently said,
why didn't we use the Roman network after the Romans left?
And I've obsessed ever since. Now, one example that was given was Silchester, the Roman town, Caliva Atrebatum. Well, that disappeared soon after the Roman Empire in Britain. Therefore, the 5 major roads that went in and out of Silchester, well, they no longer became practical or used. Now, that would be easy to say, well, we have an answer: abandoned town, abandoned roads. But I don't think it's quite as simple as that, because there's still towns along along it now that connect it. So for me, it should feel a lot more important than perhaps it was given at the time. Why exactly is that? Take routes like Salisbury to Winchester or Marlborough to Bath. These towns survived. They're still important, and yet the Roman routes between them didn't, which for me doesn't really make much sense, because these roads were hugely functional, hugely well built and hugely direct. So why didn't we carry on using them into the medieval period and onwards thereafter? And yeah, I'm conscious I've asked that question 3 or 4 times now, but then just consider, for example, the Fosse Way. A road of real importance, and yet parts of it are still in use, but not like you'd expect. Bits of A road, maybe bits of B road, and a heck of a lot of just pathways and bridleways. We don't use it anymore to travel between the major places along it. Bath to Cirencester, on paper it's perfect, but in reality it's just not used anymore. Okay, so this took quite a while, but we had some help from a couple of friends. Now, we start with the obvious ones, these big names, the Watling Streets and the Ermine Streets, the ones that everybody seems to point to. And the results for those are all over the place, from 30 to 60% in use. So I scaled this down and did a bunch of local roads myself here in the south of England. And in one case, less than a quarter, another barely a third. Well, the first surprise is they don't survive in a clear, predictable way. Those main routes, for sure, they definitely don't. Including the one that we came in on today. And I say came in, that's because we just stepped inside the walls of Caliva Atrebatum. Surround this place sort of a kilometre from one side to the other. And everything you see there in the background behind me would have been a busy Roman town. And then there's the other problem. Well, those names of those major routes, Watling Street, Ermine Street, all of those, well, they're not Roman at all. And they don't represent single Roman routes anyway. They're modern names for those roads. They don't even follow what would have been the Roman itineraries. So maybe we're just starting to think about these routes and roads in the wrong way. So that's why I started to look closely at this. Not the famous big routes that we attribute now to these long Roman roads, but the more local ones, the more functional ones. And that's when things start to go a little bit pear-shaped. So first of all, from our research, we can indeed say that many Roman roads fell out of use. So let's conclude and use a little bit of logic to decide exactly why that happened. Let's ask that question for the final time. But before we do, just have a look at this. This is the southern gate for the town, Caliva Atrebatum, and a Roman road would have left here. And you'd have had a wonderful gated entrance here, pillars, all sorts either side, marking that route south. And it would have gone in a straight line to the south coast, and it's gone. There's hardly any trace of that one at all. You can't find that raised profile. But why? So we've already established that the Portway, the Roman road I came in on today, well, it does have towns that survived post-Roman era, so there was a need surely to trade and communicate. So even towards the end of Roman rule, before the official end of Roman Britain in 410 AD, well, these roads clearly mattered, and there's a great example of that, again, down to the southwest. We have some really curious examples, that of the Roman road between Salisbury and Dorchester. Now, we have, in the late 4th century, something called the Bockley Dyke, which is essentially a defensive wall thrown up completely across it. Yet late 4th century, which only makes sense if that road was still active and still in use and seen as important. However, that information in itself gives us another nugget of gold about these Roman roads. Towards the late Roman period, the late 300s, the late 4th century, were these roads already now under pressure from people building walls across them. The main Circus Publicus was now under threat even at this period. As Hugh Davis suggests, these roads were fundamentally military purpose. Then once that military presence weakens, the roads are going to suffer. You see, maintaining these Roman roads within the Roman period in Britain, well, it wasn't simple or cheap. We know that the cost was shared between the state and the landowner, approximately 50-50 in cases that we have seen. And of course, once that's gone, once the army's gone, the administration is gone, well, what's left now is a power vacuum. So any resources you have as a landowner, well, they aren't necessarily going to be to fix that Roman road. You no longer have that obligation. And that's the key. Roman roads are straight, they're engineered, they're imposed across the landscape, designed to get from A to B be as efficiently as possible and ignoring what lies in between them. You see, early medieval, well, those routes then become a little bit different. They become a bit more flexible. They become tied to different things: settlements, estates, rivers, worship. Instead of long distance movement, people are travelling short everyday journeys between villages, farms, churches, markets. Well, the roads and the routes in that early medieval then became a line of need rather than a line in the map. The known world at the time shrunk in a significant way. A Roman road that bypasses your village or cuts across land you don't use quickly becomes irrelevant. You don't need a fast direct road to somewhere you never go. Roman roads connected places that mattered to Rome and the Empire, but medieval roads thereafter, when that world was a smaller place, well, they connected places that mattered to people. I've been Paul. I hope you've enjoyed today's little journey. Don't forget we have a members section and a Patreon where you can get all sorts of behind the scenes goodies and bits and pieces, and yeah, click on that link below. If not, just click on subscribe and we'll see you this time next week.